Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Cafe Bagheri. The quince season is upon us, beginning of winter, and this reminds me of my mom's wonderful quince jam. And also, it's time to start making some delicious quince and plum stew, which is Khoresh-e be Auloo. Beh is the Persian word for quince, and Auloo, of course, is prune or dried plums. These quinces are very aromatic and have a citrusy flavor, but their texture is very hard. So there are not many applications for this other than a wonderfully simmered stew to soften it. And then that aromatic citrusy flavor has to be balanced with something a little tart or sour to kind of get to a tangy flavor. Hence the Auloo, the prunes that we're going to use, right? And we're going to add some lamb or beef, or you can do chicken, or if you don't like any meat, you can do this without meat. So let's make some quince and plum stew, Khoresh-e be Auloo. All right, let's start pre-processing our ingredients. We will start with the start of the show, the quince. Leave the skin on. A big part of aroma and the flavor of quince is the skin on it. We will cut up the quince right in the middle to begin with, like so. And the seeds that you see in the center of the quince need to be removed with the core. The seeds, by the way, are a remedy for cough. The average size quince is going to be split in 6 parts. So I've already cut them in half. Cut them again, like so. And it makes it easier to remove the core and the seeds. And I use a smaller knife to remove the cores. And then the ends are going to be removed like this. So apparently the quince belongs in the same family as pears and apples, but of course it's harder than all of them. But the essence and the aroma is unbelievable. Has a very, very distinctive and pleasant smell and flavor, and it has a little grainy texture that reminds you of pears. On the end of them, especially pears have that grainy texture when you're chewing. Very similar characteristic here. And then we're gonna go through and cut it in pieces 1/2 inch to 1 inch in size, kind of like this. So I told you about the need to establish a balance in the flavor, kind of get to a tangy flavor, sweet and sour almost. The Persian dried limes, that Omani or Amani limes, they're perfect for that purpose. Use a small knife to carefully put 4 to 6 punctures, holes or cuts in these dried limes. Soak these limes in about a cup of hot water. Once the punctured limes are in the hot water, we want to make sure they stay submerged for at least 1/2 an hour. I use a little weight or a saucer in this case over them to kind of force them to go under the water. And then in about 30 minutes, when everything else is lined up, we're going to use them in our Khoresh. Next item to talk about is what Persians call Auloo Bukhara. Bukhara is a Central Asian city around Caspian Sea. And supposedly this type of plum or prune comes from that area. It's got a very sweet and tangy flavor, almost tart. In a lot of stores outside of California, they're very expensive, and it may be hard for you to find. If you can't find these golden prunes, you can use dried apricots that you can get from Walmart or any grocery store in your neighborhood, and they look like this. And you want to cut them up in little pieces, like so. And put them in your Khoresh, as you see here. This is because the apricots will not dissolve, and so you want to cut them in small pieces to help the texture of your Khoresh. Prunes, the Auloo Bukhara, will dissolve eventually, but make sure that you remove the pits. I know a lot of people back home in Iran keep keep the aloo with the pits, and they believe it helps the flavor of the khoresh, but I don't want that risk, and I don't want my guests to break teeth. So we're going with aloo bukhara, but apricots is certainly an option. I have my medium-sized Dutch oven, any medium-sized pot with a thick bottom, good heat distribution will do. These Dutch ovens are ideal for Persian Khoreshes. I have it on medium-high for a couple of minutes, let it preheat. Then I'm gonna put about a tablespoon of a neutral vegetable oil in there. Let it heat up to the point where it's shimmering. Once that happens, I will get my medium-sized white onion, yellow onions will do. In the pre-processing of ingredients, I did not show you the onion dicing and chopping because you've seen that, you've done that. So this is one onion sliced small, and we're gonna add it to the oil. And we're gonna cook this onion down to about the point where it's translucent. You don't wanna get too much color on it. Now we add about a teaspoon of turmeric to our onions and stir thoroughly. We're gonna add our meat. Any meat from the rib area is very tasty, and I'm using beef short ribs today. I cut the meat and usable fat from around the rib bones in about 1/2 inch to 1 inch in size, as you can see. We're going to cook the meat for about 3 to 4 minutes and stir occasionally. The goal is to make sure that all the beef chunks, all the meat chunks change color on all sides. That takes about 3 minutes. Our beef is ready now to proceed. We're going to add our salt and pepper, stir to incorporate, and cook for about 1 minute longer. Okay, now we add our tomato paste, about a tablespoon, and stir to combine and incorporate thoroughly. Takes about 1 minute. This is a couple of cups of chicken broth. Water is often used in the original recipe, but I have chosen in my Persian stews to add a little added umami in form of chicken broth or beef broth, if that's what you have. And we're gonna add about a cup of hot water. Right here. Stir to incorporate. At this point, we're going to fish out the couple of Persian dried limes that we had soaked in hot water, and there are holes in there, as you can see. We're gonna put them in there, and then put a little bit of cinnamon in there. That helps accentuate that sweet side of this khoresh. You could put some cardamom if you like, but I'm going with cinnamon only. Now we're going to go higher in heat and bring this to an initial boil. Our stew is in a rolling boil, as you can see. Now we're gonna immediately drop it to low and go for a simmer for 30 minutes. While our stew is simmering, we're going to saute our quince pieces with a little bit of butter and aromatics and get them ready for our stew. Add a couple of tablespoons of butter. Once the butter is melted and hot, we're going to add our cut up quince to the skillet. We'll spread the pieces of quince to make sure all the pieces are meeting the hot skillet bottom. There you go. So towards the end of my 3 to 4 minutes, I kind of stir them a little bit. Now we're going to add the sugar. It's about a tablespoon of sugar. Our saffron solution. and the prunes. And we're gonna stir to incorporate all of this. Just one more minute. About halfway through the 30 minutes, we're gonna do a little bit of stirring. Our 30-minute simmer is over. We're going to give the stew one brief stir, and then our quince and prunes are going to be added to the stew. There, give it one more stir. Put the lid back on and simmer for 20 more minutes. We're at the end of our combined 50-minute simmering of this stew. Our eBeh Auloo Khoresh is ready. Yum, smells great. So we're gonna turn off the heat at this point and give it about 5 minutes to rest. Like all the rest of my stews, I'm adding a little pinch of cayenne pepper. You add your favorite pepper, or if you don't like any heat in your stew, just skip this part. One last thing to do is to fish out the dried limes from the stew and then squeeze all of the juice, the essence from inside of these 2 limes. The skins are a little bitter, so you want to fish them out and not have them in there. I actually personally like the skins of cooked dried Amani limes, but some people don't. But we do want the contents of those limes to be preserved and go back in the stew. Do a final stir, give it about 10 minutes and serve it. All right, here it is, our Khoresh-e eBeh Auloo, which is a Persian quince and prune stew. It's truly magnificent. I know I say that about all of my favorite Khoreshes that I present here, but this one's wonderful, especially for this season. Do make this at home and let me know how it turns out. We are on Instagram as well, at Cafe Bagheri. Please tag me on your stories or send me pictures in direct message. I love to see what you do with this. So thank you for being here today. If you liked what you saw, please like below this video. I appreciate it if you share my videos with your friends and family on social media, Facebook, X, whatever. And in case you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and hit that little bell button so we can keep in touch. And we're gonna start doing some kebabs, getting ready for the grilling season. You better believe it. Let me know how you like this, and I can't wait to try this Khoresh-e eBeh. This is good.